Hey, I'm Sarah. Living in a quiet suburban neighborhood sounds like a dream, right? Not for me. When I was 15, my life was flipped upside down when my dad remarried Janet. Along with her came two kids, Alex, 17, and Brenda, 14. From the outside, they seemed like your typical teens, but their attitude towards me was anything but typical. It started subtly. Whispers here, a snicker there. At first, I thought I was just being paranoid, but the pattern soon became clear. Did you actually think you were invited to sit with us? Brenda sneered one morning as I approached the breakfast table, her eyes barely lifting from her phone. Alex smirked and added, "Yeah, Sarah, some spaces are just better without you." I tried to brush it off, focusing on my cereal and avoiding their stares. At school, it wasn't any better. Brenda made sure of that. Being in the same grade, her favorite hobby became turning my life into a daily embarrassment. One incident stands out painfully clear. I'd spent weeks on a big science project, something I was actually proud of. But the day before it was due, I found it trashed in the backyard. I looked up to see Brenda standing at the window waving with a wicked grin. Furious, I confronted her later. "Why would you do that?" I demanded. She shrugged. "Maybe you'll learn not to leave your trash lying around," she said, her voice dripping with fake sympathy. Home was no refuge. Every time I tried to tell my dad, he dismissed it. "Janet's kids wouldn't do that. You must have misunderstood," he'd say, echoing Janet, who was always quick to defend her precious angels. Alex was even more cunning. He'd lie straight to my dad, making up things I supposedly said or did. One evening, I overheard him telling my dad, "She told me she hates living here, that she wishes you hadn't married Janet." His voice was laced with fake concern. I stormed in, furious. "That's not true. Why are you lying?" My dad's face showed confusion and disappointment, but not at Alex. "Sarah, go to your room. We'll talk later." But we never did. Every time it was my word against theirs, and I always lost. Feeling isolated became my norm. School was a nightmare. Home was worse. As my 18th birthday approached, I made a decision. I couldn't thrive here. I was barely surviving. The night before my birthday, I packed a small bag. "I can't do this anymore," I whispered to myself, feeling a mix of fear and relief. Leaving was my only option, my only shot at building a life for myself away from the lies, cruelty, and constant undermining. The morning I turned 18 was the first day of my real life. I left before dawn, the house quiet. My bag was light, but my heart was heavy with hope. I boarded a bus to a city 4 hours away, where I'd start college and hopefully a new chapter. College was overwhelming at first. The campus was huge, the crowds intimidating, and for the first few weeks, I clutched my schedule like a lifeline. The loneliness was suffocating. Every laugh I heard, every group of friends I saw, reminded me of what I'd left behind, not just a family but the hope of ever belonging somewhere. But I was determined not to let my past define my future. I threw myself into my studies, spending long hours in the library. Slowly, things started to change. I picked up a part-time job at the campus cafe, a noisy, bustling spot that left me no time to dwell on my troubles. It was there I met Mia, a fellow student with a bright smile and a talent for making everyone feel included. "Hey, you're the girl always buried in her textbooks, right?" Saving the world one page at a time, Mia joked one afternoon, handing me a coffee during my break. I chuckled, surprised by the warmth her simple gesture sparked. "Trying to, at least." "I'm Sarah," I replied. From that day on, Mia made sure to include me, inviting me to study groups and introducing me to others. Slowly, without even realizing it, I was no longer the girl watching from the sidelines. College wasn't just about making friends, though. I threw myself into my major, business management, with a passion fueled by the desire to never feel powerless again. My professors took notice, pushing and challenging me, seeing potential in me that I had never dared to see in myself. One professor, in particular, Dr. Reynolds, became a mentor. "You've got a sharp mind for strategy, Sarah. Ever considered joining the business competition team?" he suggested one day after class. I hesitated, the old doubts whispering in the back of my mind. But Dr. Reynolds wouldn't take no for an answer. Joining the team became a turning point. We spent months working on a case study about revitalizing a failing business, and I threw everything I had into it, often staying up late into the night refining strategies. The competition was intense, held in a massive auditorium with teams from across the nation. When our team was called to present, the weight of the moment settled on my shoulders. But as I started speaking, something incredible happened. The room, the judges, the other teams, all of it faded away. It was just me, confident and clear, presenting our three-phase restructuring strategy. As I laid out our innovative approach, I could see the judges nodding, jotting down notes. When they announced us as the winners, my teammates erupted in cheers, lifting me off my feet. In that moment, surrounded by applause, I realized I had found something I thought I had lost long ago: my self-worth. College flew by in a whirlwind of classes, late-night study sessions, and small victories that helped piece together my new life. By the time graduation rolled around, I wasn't just a student with good grades. I was a leader, a friend, and a competitor. I graduated with honors, a moment of immense pride as I stood draped in my cap and gown. After the ceremony, Dr. Reynolds pulled me aside. "Got something for you," he said, handing me an envelope. Inside was a job offer from one of the top firms in the city. Holding that crisp piece of paper in my hands, I knew it was more than just an offer. It was a symbol of everything I had fought to achieve. From the ashes of my old life, I had risen, rebuilt, and was now ready to conquer. Stepping into the corporate world felt like entering another intense competition. Only this time, the stakes were higher, the rivals tougher, and the victories even sweeter. I climbed the corporate ladder through hard work and sharp acumen, the same traits that had impressed my professors and peers alike. Every promotion felt like a vindication, proof that I was more than what my past had defined me to be. Then came the unexpected twist. Our company announced a merger with a struggling competitor, a move that promised to expand our reach but brought a host of integration challenges. Among them, to my utter disbelief, was the arrival of Alex and Brenda. The day they walked into the office, part of a group being toured around, was a moment I'll never forget. Alex wore his usual cocky smile, while Brenda looked as though she owned the place, despite the nervousness she was trying to hide. They didn't recognize me at first. I was just another face among their new colleagues. But that anonymity didn't last long. A week later, after the dust of the merger had settled, I was promoted to manage a new team, which included them. The announcement was formal, a quick introduction by our director. "Sarah will be heading the project team for the integration process. I expect everyone to give her your full cooperation," he said in a tone that left no room for argument. When our eyes met, I saw Alex's expression shift rapidly: surprise, then recognition, and finally resentment. Brenda's reaction was more subtle, her face hardening as she registered the news, but her displeasure was clear. Our first team meeting was tense. As I outlined the project goals and timelines, I could feel their eyes on me, searching for a weakness, a crack in my armor. After the meeting, Alex finally broke the silence. "So we're reporting to you now?" he asked, his voice laced with sarcasm. "Yes, Alex. I'll be expecting updates on your sections by the end of the week," I responded, my tone polite but firm. Brenda just nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line. Over the next few weeks, they tested me, missing deadlines, questioning my decisions in emails. But each challenge was met with calm, professional responses. I reminded them of company policies, stayed firm on expectations, and made sure my feedback was constructive. Slowly, their overt resistance waned, replaced by a begrudging acceptance. The initial shock at my authority gave way to the realization that I was no longer the same Sarah they had tormented years ago. Watching them struggle to adapt to the new dynamics was an ironic twist of fate. I didn't revel in their discomfort, but I couldn't help but appreciate the justice of the situation. They were no longer in control, and their past actions had no power here. Navigating this reversal of roles required careful balance. I had to manage not only the project but also the undercurrents of our shared history, ensuring that it didn't cloud my judgment or affect the team's overall performance. With each passing day, I grew more adept at maintaining that balance, my confidence bolstered by the support of my team and the visible results of our work. In this new chapter of my life, the tables had turned. I was no longer a victim, I was a leader, and I was no longer just surviving. I was thriving in a world that had once seemed set against me. A year into managing the integration project, I had settled into my role with a newfound ease. The office buzzed with activity, a constant hum of productivity that I had helped foster. But amid this success, a troubling discovery loomed on the horizon, one that would test my professionalism in ways I had never anticipated. During a routine audit of the project's finances, discrepancies began to emerge. The numbers didn't add up, and certain allocations appeared suspiciously vague. Digging deeper, I followed the trail of irregularities, which led to an unsettling revelation. Alex had been diverting funds. This wasn't just a mistake, it was embezzlement. Handling this discovery required all of my resolve. I reported the findings to the compliance department, presenting the evidence without a hint of the personal history that colored the situation. The investigation that followed was swift and thorough. Alex was called in, the evidence laid out before him, and the gravity of his situation made clear. He faced legal consequences and was terminated from his position. Watching Alex escorted out of the building was a moment fraught with complex emotions. There was no satisfaction in his downfall, only the somber recognition of justice being served. This wasn't about revenge, it was about accountability. Meanwhile, Brenda faced her own struggles. It became increasingly evident that she couldn't keep up with her responsibilities. Her work, often late and below expectations, reflected a lack of commitment and capability. After several warnings and attempts at remediation, she was demoted to a role that better suited her skills. It was a professional decision, necessary for the team's success, but it carried a personal weight that I couldn't entirely ignore. Through all these challenges, I maintained a professional distance, focusing on my growth and the well-being of my team. My dedication didn't go unnoticed. As the project neared completion, our director called me into his office. "Sarah, your handling of the recent difficulties has been exemplary," he said, his tone serious but approving. "We need that level of integrity and leadership as we move forward. We're expanding our operations, and I want you to lead the new department." The promotion was significant, not just as a career advancement but as a validation of my journey from a tormented teenager to a respected leader in my field. I accepted with a grateful, if somewhat heavy, heart. Later, standing by the panoramic window of my new office, I looked out over the city. The sky was painted in twilight hues, a backdrop to the bustling streets below. It was a moment of reflection, a chance to understand that the trials I had faced were not just obstacles but stepping stones. I had overcome much, built bridges where there had once been barriers, and found strength in the ashes of my past hardships. My achievements, as significant as they were, paled in comparison to the personal victories I cherished: self-respect, resilience, and the ability to thrive amidst adversity. As I turned from the window, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, I knew that my past would always be a part of who I was, but it would no longer define me. I was not just a survivor, I was a leader, and my future was a promise of continued success and fulfillment. So, how do you think you would handle working with someone who had once made your life difficult? Would you seek retribution, or would you focus on your personal and professional growth like Sarah did?